Hey, what's up, everybody? Good morning. This is Ali Taraftar back with a brand new video. Today's Saturday, which means today's finance talk. Today's video, we're going to go over the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Now, for the most part, those who are watching this probably on replay, as we didn't announce much of today's finance talk, I just wanted to break down exactly what Fair Credit Reporting Act is, why you need to know this, and of course, a lot of customers who actually gone through many different credit repair companies in specific have been educated by those so-called credit repair experts, and they're given information on the Fair Credit Reporting Act that's possibly wrong. It's not completely accurate, and of course, this reminds me that it is something that you all have to kind of be familiar with as you're going into credit repair. You have to ask yourself, okay, well, what are some of the processes that these so-called credit repair experts are using? They talk about the FCRA, they make it look like I can't do it myself. Is there some sort of complication? Is there something that I can't potentially touch on? And this leads us back to identifying the areas of knowledge, the identifying exactly what you need to know to be well versed. You don't have to actually memorize the whole thing, right? Like you don't have to go down and spend hours on end trying to figure out the FCRA and what it does for you. What you need to know is what it needs to work for you and how it got to work for you. So today's overview is going to be specifically understanding the FCRA on a sense of disputing, on a sense of compliance, on a sense of how it works, and what you should step in and what you should do when you see mistakes, specifically related to your credit reports. So let's go over this presentation. So for the most part, a lot of people will say, well, what is the FCRA? Well, we know that as the Fair Credit Reporting Act, but in reality, the FCRA is a little bit more than that. Okay, it's actually a consumer law on credit reporting that enables fair, accurate, timely, and true reporting of an individual's assessment. And this assessment is based on personal, financial, and risk. And what I mean by that is the FCRA can also apply for LexisNexis. It can be applied for check systems. It can be applied for insurance. It could be applied for your employer, where you work. So there's a lot of different things that the FCRA has to be inputted into. For an employer, right? If you're working, for example, a financial institution or something that requires some sort of responsibility and compliance, then the FCRA may apply. Right. As far as insurance, well, they look at your credit history, they look at your payment history, whether or not you're going to lapse the policy because they have to underwrite it for you. They have to go through all that effort, and they want to make sure that you're going to be paying your premiums on time. Right. On a personal level, it could be something like you're trying to get a credit card. And of course, your payment history matters, your credit matters. So there are all sorts of disclosures that the FCRA has to work with in conjunction with just your credit reports. So it doesn't only apply to Equifax, it doesn't only apply to Experian, and it doesn't only apply to TransUnion. There's a whole lot more than that. Actually, there are over 12 consumer reporting agencies that you have to understand. They are the ones that comply with the FCRA. They have to follow those rules. They have to follow those regulations. And they are, of course, somewhat interconnected. And what I mean by that is, let's say some of these, credit reporting agencies, they are like the second set of information. They could be the third set. And by set, I mean, let's say somebody's actually looking and you froze your, three bureaus. Let's say if you freeze Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, and you actually go out there and you try to apply, there's a fallback bureaus. And these fallback bureaus can be ranging from, Creed Logic. There's a lot of other ones. IntelliScore, there's a lot of other things, right? And those type of, like, even Innovis. So those type of other bureaus also have to comply with the FCRA. Now, just freezing, the three bureaus doesn't really do much because there's fallback bureaus and you can get denied for anything that you're applying for. So keep that in mind. They are somewhat interconnected, but all that being said and done, they all fall within the FCRA. They all fall and they have to comply with the FCRA. So what does it mean to you as a customer, right? What does the FCRA mean to you? So you're going to hear a lot of these credit repair gurus come up to you and say, look, we're going to follow the rules, FCRA. We do these secret things and methods. And, it's not really so secret anymore, right? Like some of these are old, outdated methods and they don't necessarily work. And if they do, it's by fluke. But if you're ever to, present that to somebody like an attorney or you go to court, there will be no sense of it. So let's go over exactly what it does for you as a consumer. The first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you have access to all three of your reports. Now, it doesn't matter where you get them from. You just want to make sure that they're complete. And what I mean by complete is, for example, You go to credit check total, you sign up, and you have your three bureaus, correct? But past that point, you'll have like some mixed variations of your first names, last names. But when you actually get the official report from, let's say, TransUnion, Experian, or Equifax, you're going to see like 20 different names, 40 different addresses, which are not included, by the way, in credit check total, right? So there are additional layers and information that's not really showing, regardless of how reputable a third-party credit reporting software or solution is. And essentially, this means you actually go and apply, for example, with something, and then you get rejected. Now, at that time, a lot of people actually open up the credit check total and download the report from there. Here's the thing: you got to call these credit reporting companies, particularly Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian, and you got to say, "Look, I'm trying to apply. It's not getting approved. I need a copy of my report." And if they ask, "Hey, look, what kind of application that was rejected," you can actually just say Global Consulting Inc., like my company, and you can use that as an excuse. But you can actually get a free copy of your report by just simply doing that. And in fact, you're eligible for it, right? And when you actually get the official report from the official companies, you have a lot more details to work with. Actually, this actually increases your chances of credit repair, believe it or not. Because what most people fail to realize is when they actually dispute based on credit check total, and they can, most of the information does match, it doesn't have complete information that's necessary for you to review. So, for example, like some of the things will say date updated, or let's say balance is updated, whatever, right? Like, but you can only see how your balances were and the history of that with the official statements from the credit reporting agencies, like the backlog of like all those months that you reported, or the furnisher reporting on your report. So, anyways, going further, you also make sure that you verify the information, and that has to be your first and last name only. If you see middle initial, all that kind of good stuff, it can actually affect your outcome and repair, because they can actually tie those information to any derogatories that you have. This is the process where I tell people, look, first figure out, okay, if the information is congruent across all three. Does your first and last name appear across all three the same, without any inconsistencies? If not, the first step you got to do is clean that up before you even start looking at disputing or challenging or anything like that. Okay. You also make sure your date of birth is accurate. Your phone numbers, you got to only have one. You can't have more than one. In fact, you can actually remove the phone numbers if you want. Also, the addresses. Make sure that the corresponding address that you want the mails to be sent back to, particularly from a dispute or your challenges, are coming back to one specific address. It has to be something that, for example, in your driver's license, a lot of people give me driver's license, for example, when we do credit repair for them. And I look at their information and I'm asking them, hey, look, where do you want the credit reporting agencies to send the mail? Where do you want all these other third-party furnishers to send your mail? And they say another whole different address, and it's not even on their driver's license. Now, I understand for the most part, a lot of people would just give me a billing statement of a utility or phone or something, and that could do the trick. But my advice to all of you is, if you're not planning to move for the next couple of months to a year, take the effort of updating your driver's license. It's important. Take the effort of doing that, because now when you send that in, even though you're disputing some of these addresses and information, they cannot go back to your driver's license. Your information matches, we cannot remove it. So make sure you're updating that, as well, while you're challenging these items, or before even challenging the items, and you're sending them a copy of your driver's license and your social security number. Also, make sure that aliases, that you don't have any. Make sure that you don't have any spouses is listed either. And employers, clean that up. You don't need that. Here's the problem. We talked about wage garnishment with collection agencies. There's a lot of them out there that are actually exercising that before you even tell them. Here's the issue. So a lot of my clients, they were taught the wrong thing. They told the collection agencies to cease and desist. Don't communicate with them. Okay, that's fine. So what happens now is the collection agencies can go to court, sue you without even telling you. And if the judge asks, hey, where's the client? The collection agency can say, my client's request via writing, here it is, evidence, told me that I do not have to communicate with them. Therefore, Your Honor, the charges are for this and for that. And because it's a default summary judgment, you're not there. So by automatic default, right, the perpetrator, which is the collection agency, can win the case. And now your employers are listed, and they can actually go and do wage garnishment. Get rid of your employer. You don't need that information. And of course, don't do the wrong thing and stop paying debt collectors just because you're learning this somewhere else. Be responsible. Ask for validation, yes, but we're going to talk about that a little bit deeper in a couple of upcoming videos, particularly not today. And next week's Finance Talk, I'll cover more on the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. But just to give you some clarity, these are the information that you have to have consistently, updated. Like I said, driver's license, fix that. You need to have an updated driver's license. So clean that up and move forward with your disputes thereafter. Okay. Now, there are several important components of the Fair Credit Reporting Act. I'm not going to go in deep dive into, okay, as per this law and that law. I'm going to give you the information that you need to know in a very plain English language. In fact, you can actually use that same plain English language on your letters because, of course, the credit reporting agencies know the law. You don't have to actually point it out to them and make it obvious and waste paper on it. What you can simply do is write it as plain English because, of course, you understand the rules and just utilize that information and go about challenging it. Okay, so first thing you want to do is you want to look for inquiries. Of course, a lot of people will start disputing all the inquiries. One of the things you have to be careful with, and I'm going to give you this strategy, is if you applied for a card and you got approved in the past, not more than 90 days, and you file an inquiry removal, there's a high chance that they can actually shut down that card and close your new card. And the reason why I say this is because a lot of customers have had that issue, starting to dispute inquiries right away, or giving another credit repair company their information and letting them handle it, which causes a lot of headaches. And of course, the credit repair company is going to come up with all sorts of excuses on why it's not that or this. But here's the thing: if you opened a brand new card in the past 90 days, okay, you don't have to go ahead and file that inquiry or remove it because it's going to actually shut down your card. Give it a little bit of time. It's a legit inquiry. You have to wait. But here's the thing: also get a copy to see what other information that's actually pertaining to that inquiry, or maybe other inquiries that are present in your report. You have to get a report from SageStream. SageStream is another consumer reporting agency. They also have to follow the FCRA. Information on SageStream is also very much like integrated with a lot of different other third-party reports. A lot of people use SageStream, and you might want to look into the information that's there. Remember that I talked about your personal identifiers, like your first and last name and all that good stuff. Of course, maybe when you file an application online for your credit card, you don't have all the details. You don't remember, okay, what kind of first name you put. Did you put a capital here or lowercase there? So look into that. Look into SageStream, and once you get a copy of that, verify all the information. Make sure it's how do we say this, consistent across all three of the reports. Now, if you don't have it consistent, if it's not there, what you want to do is you want to freeze that. Okay, you want to freeze that big boy. SageStream, once you freeze it, then you can go ahead and you can actually remove a lot of inquiries in the process. But it's a trick that you want to, get used to. There's a whole lot more than just the three bureaus and furnishers, of course. We talked about this many times, but I just want to reiterate the importance of doing that. Now, if you look at late payments, going down on the list, if you look at late payments and you're seeing, okay, something's not right or it's not, it's not proper, you can actually dispute it based on the Fair Credit Billing Act. Now, you can't just dispute it with the credit bureaus. You actually have to challenge it with the actual company that's reporting this late. And you have to say, is inaccurate according to the Fair Credit Billing Act. The information being present in my report is actually not completely accurate. So there's a challenge that I'm giving you. I want you to fix it and update it. And then, of course, at the same, you want to send a copy of that exact letter to the bureaus if you have a chance to do that. If you're doing credit repair on yourself, on your own, then that's something you want to look at. Charge-offs, it's a tricky one. So a lot of people get charge-offs in their reports. It's debt that's been wiped out the books of all these type of companies out there. Now, when that happens, there's two things that take place. The first one is the balance have to be zero because there's nothing there showing. It's written off, so it's a zero debt. However, there's probably going to be a new collection agency with the same balance and information. Now, what it does is it's actually double negative. So you want to be careful with that. You can dispute it based on the balance, and you want to look into collections. Now, with the collection company that's actually reporting information, whether it be based on a charge-off or simply just another collection agency, what you want to do is you want to validate the right of collecting, not debt validation. Debt validation, it can actually be from an original creditor. They don't have to have signed contract with you, by the way. That you're learning out there, people are saying you absolutely need a copy of a signed agreement or signed contract. That's BS. Okay, collection agencies don't need that. They can actually go based off of an original creditor and collect on their behalf. They have the legal right to do so. But in order to do that, you have to look at their rights and a collection activity, making sure that you validate that. How do you do this? How do you go about validating a right to collect? And that's the way that you want to go ahead and challenge that. And the way you do that, okay, you actually ask the collection agency for a copy of the contract between the original furnisher and their collection agency. The reason why is because there's something called a quit claim language. Excuse me. So a quit claim language, it's going to say, look, we don't guarantee the accuracy of this debt. It's just a simple line, little couple of words, okay? And they say, we don't guarantee the validity of this debt or the accuracy. So, let's see if you ever go to court and these collection agencies decide, to play hard and don't remove themselves. in court, there's a process that you can actually file for discovery. And during that process, you can actually ask for a copy of, let's say, the contract. And if they say, well, yeah, okay, we're going to give you it, and then they do it, and you can actually ask the judge, look, judge, can you please look into the quitclaim language? Can you actually make sure that based on the FCRA that the information being reported is accurate? Because if the judge looks at the paper in a quitclaim language and verifies that, okay, look, it says that we don't guarantee the substantial evidence of this debt, we don't guarantee the accuracy, etc. You are taking this in your own risk, then the judge can actually, file a very heavy penalty in order against the debt collector, right? So that's how you validate the right of collecting. And of course, there's a lot of other things like statute of limitations. What does that mean? Well, if you look at, let's say you go to Google search and you say, look, statute of limitations, California, and you're going to see 4 years, okay? And there's a lot of different states and rules, but and another thing is debt collectors. A lot of people say, well, they re-age the account by simply, reporting it again. Don't worry about that. They're not allowed to do that. It's actually illegal. Nobody can re-age an account, and if they do, it's actually it's very huge violation. So you got to be careful with that as well. These are the two things you can actually fight collection on. The debt validation, yes, it works, but be sure to include a copy of, look, I want you to, validate your ability and your right to collect, and I want to see a copy of that contract, and I want to read the quit claim within that contract to make sure that it is an accurate debt. Okay, in most cases, they'll fail to propose and provide that information, and you can actually just file suit against them if they fail to do that, or actually they will remove themselves automatically in most cases. And always check for statute of limitations. You want to be careful with that. And you make it obvious to them and look, it's past the statute of limitation. It's gone. Okay. So bankruptcies, bankruptcy is another piece of evidence that you have to fight. And unfortunately, a lot of customers out there, they don't know the right process of fighting bankruptcies. There's several components to a public record, specifically a bankruptcy. It's a few steps, and you have to do this. Okay, first, you actually check with the original creditors that are listed on your report. Are they included in bankruptcy? Check that information. Most of them will never say that. They will never put that statement, so they're disputable right off the get-go. Another one is you want to check who's actually publishing the private database of public records to the 3 consumer reporting agencies. And we know that it's mostly LexisNexis. We know that for a fact it's them. And that is why it's important for you to actually get a copy of LexisNexis to make sure what other information is being included. And then you want to suppress and freeze the LexisNexis as well. First check the creditors, dispute with them, get the copy of the LexisNexis. Only after that point, once you froze LexisNexis and once you verified the information, disputed some of the information on LexisNexis, the third step would be then to dispute the bankruptcy. And of course, make sure that your personal identifiers are taken care of, like I always say. Very, very important. It'll be all that much harder and more challenging for compliance to handle that. So just a quick reminder of what are some of the things that you can do to fix your credit. Now, here's the thing. Furnishers, right? Anybody who's pulling information and putting it on your report is considered a furnisher. Now, when they do that, they have to comply with something called the Credit Reporting Settlement Act or Agreement. This has made it harder for furnishers to simply report information just because they feel like reporting, right? They have to comply. They have to demonstrate when requested that they actually have protocols in place, systems in place of how they went about disputing or investigating certain items, particularly when the consumer reporting agencies or credit reporting agencies send them something called the ACDV form. The ACDV form actually now has something called an image attachment. This specific image attachment is very useful because what it does is actually, if you're disputing, and you can actually add more images and items to show an evidence that, look, there are certain things in there that are not compliant. The information there contained is not accurate. And then they have to go based off of that. So every time a furnisher puts something on your report, they actually have to click a checkbox, and it has to say, I certify that this information is 100% accurate. If they lie, it's a very huge penalty. It's not the FCRA type of damages. We're talking, $25,000 a day or upwards of $100,000 easily. So it's very dangerous for them to actually start misreporting or put injurious items in your report without compliantly verifying the accuracy. So to do that, they have to have procedures and protocols in place, because in damages, it's going to cost them a whole lot more than the revenues that they're generating. So they have to be very, very careful. Okay. Now, here's how the 2018 standard of credit repair works. This is the breakdown of the FCRA and the credit repair process of 2018. FCRA still applies. It's a rule. It's a law. Everybody who's doing consumer reporting, they have to abide by those rules and laws and regulations. Now, Both the credit reporting agencies and the furnishers have to follow compliance and must always certify that they are 100% compliant. That's the first thing. So when you're actually going out there and you're looking at other people and they're talking about credit repair, they're talking about Section 609 and all these type of things, it's not as significant and as important as it is for it to be compliant, right? So that's the standard that you have to work on. If you want the most efficiency, the best outcome, focus on that. Now we do our business, and the way Best Credit Resources handles credit repair is 100% in compliance. It has nothing to do, okay, with the a customer files suit, dispute. We don't take that route no more. Of course, the credit reporting agencies are going to send you, oh, here's the information on your dispute. They say that because that's the protocol they have to follow when anything is being either challenged or disputed. So that's what we do. Another thing is traditional disputing can actually take you a whole lot longer, and it may not give you the best results. This also goes and includes the overly used and abused Section 609 method. A lot of people out there are saying, well, this is the best method. And I clearly showed you multiple times on the Credit Reporting Settlement Agreement and Act, State of New York, 2015, that the credit reporting agencies don't necessarily need to have original documentation. They can actually rely on the investigative procedures, particularly after that settlement act, because they actually put on the AUD that I certify this information to be correct. We checked it out right here on this specific section right here, right? When they say that the information here is 100% accurate, it's certifiable, and it's correct. The credit reporting agencies, it's for them, it's more than enough. That is compliance. So you have to be careful when you're asking for documentation and signed wet ink signature. And like I said multiple times, there is no such thing as signed wet ink signature unless otherwise you have evidence of it. For the most part, a lot of people on filing applications for credit cards or loans online, they will never do that. Okay, so that's another thing. So whenever you are going about doing credit repair in the new 2018 standards, what you want to do is you want to check for inaccuracies because of non-compliance. Okay, so you can actually bring forth a challenge, which would in turn prove that they have to be compliant. Okay, and if they're not, then you can actually get the government involved, and it's going to cost them a lot of money to fix. Okay, so the incentive of going about compliance is that you probably get much quicker result. And I'm not talking probably, the incentive is far greater for them to go that route than they're simply disputing it, because consumers don't have all the authority and power to enforce those regulations. The government does. So just keep that in mind. So today's talk, that's about it. I just wanted to share the Fair Credit Reporting Act. I wanted you to get the overview of how it works, understand the rules and regulations of the 2018 standards and beyond. As always here to provide you value and information. If you have any questions, leave it below this video. Write up your question. I'll look into it. I'll answer it in another video if possible. If not, I'll actually email it to you personally. If you can leave your email by talking or sending an email to talk@bestcreditresources.com. I'm here to answer any private questions as well. Once again, here to bring you value. This is Ali Taraftar, your guide and mentor. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and put the bell notification on, because that's the only time you'll get to know if I'm putting up new videos. Okay? I hope you enjoyed today, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.